Welcome to Fabulous Women Over 40, hosted by celebrity stylist Kara Allan. Join Kara as she interviews amazing women, sometimes younger and amazing men as well, in their 40s and beyond. Here's Kara with our Fabulous Woman of the Day.
Welcome back to Fabulous Women Over 40, day 4 of Reigniting Your Radiance, reclaiming that sparkle. Today on my social media TikToks, I talked about what happened in my mid-30s when my house went to foreclosure and how I got my sparkle back after I lost that house. And I wanted to, and if you haven't seen it, you got to go watch it so you get the context. But so I moved in with my parents. It was from 2007 to 2014. So almost 7 years. It was like 6.5 years. And man, it was tough. Okay. Because again, the harsh household. And I never felt like I was welcome there. I always felt like, even though my dad asked me to come, because I had thought about moving to Florida. I had a friend that lived there, and she was okay with me coming there with the kids. And my other friend was like, no, you got to see what God has for you here. He needs you to be here. And I think I was talking to her on my parents' driveway, and I lost one of my 9 lives. I like died on the carport because I was like, I just don't want to do that. But one thing was, I never wanted my kids to be able to say that I left them, that I abandoned them, because I could have given them both to their dads and said, let me get myself together, whatever. But I didn't want that. I wanted to be the one constant parent in their life. I wasn't perfect. I didn't do everything right. But the one thing I was there that I did do was that I was always there. I was always there. I never left them. I never gave them up. I never said, hey, I got to take care of me. I didn't do that. So I sucked it up and I went back and lived with my parents, and it was hell. Okay. And not to say, I'm very grateful that they gave us a place to live, and that for the first part, I didn't have to pay anything because I didn't have any money, but it was hell. I never got any, it's okay. Half the country is dealing with this. It was like, you did it. It's your fault. There's no, no compassion or nothing about it, and yes, it happened because of everything that was going on, but it also happened because I wasn't great with my finances. I'm admitting to that. I will. But at the same time, you could have at least made me not feel try to make me not feel bad about it, but that didn't happen. So whatever at this point. So, I got to go to Italy in 2011. It made my life. It was the most amazing thing ever. And again, I talked about it from the perspective of seeing the movie Eat, Pray, Love. And it was like God knew I needed that. I needed to have that sparkle given back to me, because I was just, there were so many things. Like, my parents have this big house, and the second floor has its own HVAC system. And it went out one year, and it was so hot up there, you couldn't do nothing. You just you could lay down because, heat rises. It was just like, couldn't do nothing. And my dad wouldn't fix it for like 2 years. And then I was already driving around a car that had no air conditioning. So it's like 100 degrees all the time. And so I'm hot in the car all day. I'm hot when I come home. It was just a lot. It was a lot going on. And, I guess that's maybe why I've become so resilient in my life, because I've overcome so many things that just, those are minor inconveniences. I know people don't have air conditioning every day forever, but, for me, that was a lot. I just couldn't function in that heat, in that extreme heat. It was just too much. So, okay. So then after I came back from Italy, I totally had my sparkle. But, the story of Eat, Pray, Love is she went to Italy, to India, and then to Bali. So I was so happy I got to go to Italy. I wanted to go to Bali as well, but I wasn't so pressed to go to India. And mostly because I'm a tropical kind of girl. I love warmth. I don't necessarily love extreme heat, but I love a beach. I love a good view, something. And not to, say anything bad about India. There just wasn't anything I really felt that I wanted to go see there. So it wasn't on my list. Let's just say that. But Bali seemed like paradise, like a Hawaii kind of thing. So I was like, yeah, I really want to go to Bali. And so another thing that I felt was kind of crazy was like, I was trying everything. I'm a hustler, or I have been for a while. I do multiple things. I've always done multiple things. I've never done just one thing as far as a job or money or whatever. And I had the entrepreneurial spirit early on in my life. And so I was a makeup artist. I was a bartender. I I got into real estate while I was living with my parents. And I was like, man, I don't want this thing to be one more thing that I don't make money with, because, I would make money with things, but it would kind of stall out at some point, because I remember reading Warren Buffett said the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So here I had I was working as a bartender, but that I fell off my regular job, but I was still doing like catering companies and things like that, but that wasn't regular, or other gigs that would come up here and there, but nothing's consistent. So I had that. And then I was a makeup artist for MAC for 2 years or so, 2.5 years, maybe a little longer than that, I'm not sure. And also Christian Dior. I freelanced for them. I wasn't an employee. So, but I loved that. I love being able to help women get made up and love makeup. And I also did a lot of weddings, and I made a lot of money with the weddings. Again, that's not something that's consistent per se, but it was for a long time. I made a lot of money with my brides, and I loved that. And I did some acting here and there for commercials and things like that. And again, that's another hustle. You got to really hustle for that. And in this area, it's better if you're in like LA or New York. There's a lot of work here, but it's, again, not consistent all the time. So that's one of the things I was striving for, was consistency in my finances. And being an entrepreneur, sometimes that's not always the case. So that's why I had multiple things. So I remember praying when I went into the real estate thing, because it was like $2,000 just to get all the things you needed, the between the exams, the association fees, like all the stuff that you had to pay for. It was about $2,000 before you even able to sell anything. And I went with Long and Foster in Great Falls, and I convinced one of my other friends to go in it with me. And Cheryl was so cute. And so it was 4 of us that started at the same time. And we had a younger broker. A lot of the people in that office had been there since 1922, I felt like. And the broker promised us all these things. And I'm pretty sure she had the intention of supplying that, but there was a lot of stuff we didn't know politically that was going on in the office behind the scenes. And a lot of that didn't get done. So I did sell a house. I rented some properties, some things. But I basically made a little bit more than what I paid to get in it. But the great thing that happened in the midst of that was that Cheryl had refinanced her house, and somebody came to her house to take care of the paperwork for her. And she questions the person to death, like, how did you get in this? Da, da, da. And then she comes and tells me. Now, I had known about this because when I had my house and I refinanced, somebody had come to my office, but I never thought about it as like a side. It just didn't occur to me then, because I had a full-time job then, and I was working at the nightclub then, so I had enough side gigs. I didn't even, consider it. But now, of course, because we weren't making that much money with the real estate, it's like, okay. So I started researching it, figured out what it was, and started doing it. And I really built that up. And during the pandemic, I made the most money I've ever made doing anything, doing notary signing agent work. So, life is a journey. It's not a destination. Not a destination vacation. So I was going through all of that. I was trying to get that up. But I felt like I had no expiration date of when I was getting out of my parents' house, because it just seemed like I couldn't make enough money to afford a place. And the fact that I had to file bankruptcy and like all these other things, my credit was crap now, even though my friend did tell me that when my bankruptcy discharged, to get 3 new credit cards. Doesn't matter if you got to pay fees, if they're secured or whatever, just get them to establish new credit. So I did do that. And that was very helpful. And so I was just treading water here. And then finally my mom one day was just like, you gotta go. And I was like, yay, a deadline, it's time to go. And so I started looking for apartments, and I was shocked when I applied and I got it. And so that was 2014, August. And we moved into this apartment, had barely no furniture or whatever. And I was so happy. And the funny thing, right before that, I had been watching Joel Osteen, and he was talking about how back in the day they used to have indentured servants, and how when indentured servants had to work for somebody if they owed a debt for 7 years. And then after that, no matter if they still owed or not, the owner had to let them go, or the debtor had to let them go. And it was funny because I was at like 6.5 years at this point, so I was getting excited. I was like, it's almost 7 years. I'm about to be out here. And then that's when my mother told me to get out. So I was like, okay, alrighty. And so, nothing lasts forever, even though it seems like that. It feels like that. It feels like God's not talking to you. He's not answering you. Like nothing is happening. And in the midst of that, the Italy trip was 3 years in, almost 4 years in. But then it was 3 more years after that till I could finally get out. But it helped sustain me because that I went for 30 days. It was so much fun. The food, the fashion. I went with 30 other people that were younger than me. I was 39 at the time, and everybody else was like 25. And I was like, oh, we're going to be babysitting the whole time. I had the best time with them. They were so much fun. Just getting to see all the sights and everything. Italy was amazing. And I have to go back. I really want to do a shopping trip for women to go back there because everything is just so fabulous in Italy. And the men, oh my God, the men are just beautiful and they smell so good, and they come and stand like this in your face. It's a little awkward. You're kind of like, hey, give me a little space, buddy. But it was just, I felt like there was something beautiful to marvel at in Italy everywhere we went. So now I'm back to moving back into my house, and it was good. It was a struggle a little bit. I was still juggling 2 jobs. I was bartending now as full-time. Well, not full-time, part-time. I had another part-time, so it was kind of full-time, but the other one was such a tough place to work, and it just didn't end up working out there. I couldn't sustain it. So I worked for Embassy Suites for 7 years. And I was ramping up my notary signing agent work there. And I don't know if anybody have ever heard of Landmark, Landmark Education. I ended up going to Landmark. Oh, and even in the midst of this, the very next year, I'd been reading a book by Regina Thomashour, Mama Gina. And she had this book called Mama Gina's Guide to the Womanly Arts. And then she also had one about the Owner's and Operator's Guide to Men. And she had one on marriage. And then she wrote another one called Pussy. Okay. But the School of the Womanly Arts was a real thing. And I didn't even realize that. I had read the book months before and didn't realize it was an actual thing till, I looked her up. And she had these free weekends, and I wanted to go to them. And like, I tried twice before. And even the week that I went and actually ended up going, my car broke down. My other daughter's car broke down. My other daughter got in an accident. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going. And I went, and I had the best time. I, again, reclaimed my sparkle in that. And that's something else I'll talk about tomorrow. But that was a whole nother delve into my taking care of myself and mingling with other women who do an amazing job of that, and being in the company of 3 to 4 to 5 to 600 and eventually 2,000 women was just amazing. It was the most amazing thing I had ever experienced. And Landmark was a good thing too. I learned a lot about integrity and keeping your word, and just how we occur for other people and everything. Landmark was a whole thing. So, but that's enough for today. I've talked enough for today. So I would love to hear some more of your stories about, I've been hearing some interesting ones. And so I really want to hear about some, when did you lose your sparkle? How did you get it back? Have you not got it back? Like, do you want to get it back? You know what I'm saying? So have a good rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Thank you for listening, and see you on the next time. Ciao.
Thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe so you won't miss our next conscious conversation with Kara and her fabulous guests. Follow Kara on social, on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Clubhouse, @Kara Allan. and connect with her on her website at karaallan.com. Also, leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. Thanks again, and see you next time.